Welcome to Fantasia, home of the Melodious. My name's Azallea, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys another update to my Melodious deck. So if you've watched my 1,000 subscriber special that I just recently posted, you can see that I was playing a 60 card deck. This build right here is also a 60 card build. Just think of it as the TCG Legal prototype version of what you just saw. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. First of all, we're playing 2 copies of Aria, the Melodious Diva. Now, Aria, when she's special summoned on the field, she protects all of our Melodious monsters from battle and by targeting effects. So she's really good against decks like Zodiacs, which really have no outs except Kaijus or a Whiptail maybe. So she's really good for stalling against certain matchups, and she's a level 4 light fairy type monster, so she opens up a lot of good rank 4 plays. Okay, so next off, speaking of rank 4 plays, we play 3 copies of Cannon, the Melodious Diva. Now, Cannon, if you control another Melodious monster, you can special summon her straight from your hand. So she's great for swarming the field and for fueling our XYZs and our fusion plays. You can only special summon her from the hand once per turn that way, which really sucks and it's kind of dumb, but we have to work with what we're given, right? So speaking of fusion plays earlier, we play 2 copies of Soprano, the Melodious Songstress. Now Soprano, she can fuse with other Melodious monsters on your side of the field to go for our Melodious fusion monsters, which is really powerful. Shiberta is really good disruption, and Bloom Diva is a very nice boss monster to sit on at times. Her other effect is when she's special summoned, she can add 1 Melodious monster from your graveyard back to your hand. So she can add Cannon back and you can go for more plays, or you can add Shiberta or Bloom Diva back to your extra deck to fuel up for future turns. Okay, so next off we were playing 1 copy of Barrier Statue of the Heavens in the main deck. Very powerful card. It prevents both players from special summoning monsters except for light monsters, and we aren't really affected at all because all of our monsters are, well, light. So it's just a really good floodgate to search for, especially if you search off of a Ben 10. Ben 10 can add the Barrier Statue, you can just summon it and just sit on it. So the other great standalone target to search at times is going to be your Honest. Honest, of course, if you're battling something, it just helps you run over things. It can also help you protect this Barrier Statue of the Heavens from being run over by a normal summoned monster. Okay, so next off, we were playing 1 copy of Performage Trick Clown. He is a light monster, really great Brilliant Fusion target, which we are playing in this deck, the Brilliant Engine, and he keeps coming back and he helps facilitate more rank 4 plays. Speaking of facilitating plays, we also play 1 copy of Summoner Monk, just to tutor things out of the deck. I don't play multiples just because you really want to save your normal summon at times. There's a lot of normal summoning in this deck. You don't want to draw too many copies of him as well. Next off, speaking of more normal summons, we play 1 copy of Junk Synchron. Junk Synchron can, when it's normal summoned, target a level 2 or lower monster in your graveyard to special summon it in defense position. Its effects are negated. But he is a level 3 tuner, so he is very powerful to go into to bring back things like your Lazuli, which we're playing right here, and go for some synchro plays. Now Lazuli, this is the Gem Knight that we're going to send off of Brilliant Fusion to summon our Seraphonite, which allows us to normal summon twice in 1 turn. Okay, next off we were playing some hand traps. We were playing 2 copies of Maxi just to say no to our opponent when they're trying to special summon. And if they continue going, well, we get some free draws, which is really nice to help fuel our hand for subsequent turns. So the other hand trap that we play is a Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. It's really nice because you can send this off of Brilliant Fusion because she is a light. She is a hand trap that can destroy things when cards activate that are on the field, monster spells or traps. So you can get rid of a big threat. You can also hit things like Zodiacs, you can hit their Barrage, you can hit Metaphors and their Scales. There's so many things that you can hit with this, and because it's a light, you can also recycle it with cards such as Saphra. Now, speaking of Saphra, we are playing 3 copies of Saphra, Queen of Dragons. This is the pseudo-boss monster of the deck, I guess you can say. She is really great because she has 3 different effects that trigger when she's either summoned that turn through Ritual Summon, or when a light monster is sent from the hand or the deck to the graveyard that turn. This is during either player's turn, by the way. So during the end phase, you can either draw 2 cards and then discard 1 card, or you can discard 1 random card from your opponent's hand, or you can add one light monster from your graveyard to your hand. Now you can only use one of these effects per turn, but she is very, very powerful in terms of gaining advantage for us through draws, or hindering our opponent by discarding their cards, and by recycling things like Honest and Ghost Ogre from our graveyard to continue with these hand trap plays that disrupt our opponent. So in order to summon her, the main tribute fodder is going to be 3 copies of Cyber Angel Benten. Now Benten, if she is tributed in any way, you can add 1 light fairy type monster from your deck to your hand. So she is essentially the searcher for the deck. And in conjunction with this ritual play right here, you can easily search for your Melodious monsters and go for fusion and XYZ plays. Or you can search things like your Barrier Statue or your Honest to hinder your opponent's plays. So that's it for the monsters. There's a lot of them because it is a pretty big deck. Next off, we're going to go into the spells. Okay, so starting off with these spells, we were playing 3 copies of Brilliant Fusion. Brilliant Fusion is the card that we use with our Gem Knights and our light monsters to bring out Seraph Knight from the extra deck. So you activate this and you fusion summon a Gem Knight monster from your extra deck using monsters from your deck. So you just pray that you don't draw your Lazuli. If you do, there are ways to put it back into the deck, but it's just a hassle. Okay, so next off we were playing 3 copies of Pre-Preparation of Rites, which allows us to search for Hymn of Light and Saphira, Queen of Dragons, which is basically a +1, and it sets up our ritual plays very, very easily. So definitely 3 of those. Next off, we were playing 1 copy of Preparation of Rites. Now, Preparation of Rites adds a level 7 or lower ritual monster from the deck to the hand. Then you can add a ritual spell from your graveyard to your hand, which is really nice for recycling cards, and this can also search for Benten, whereas Pre-Preparation of Rites cannot. So speaking of searching for Benten and ritual stuff overall, we were playing 3 copies of Ritual Sanctuary. So you can discard 1 spell card from your hand to add 1 light ritual monster or 1 ritual spell card from your deck to your hand. So this is really good rota for the deck, for the ritual engine at least. And then you can also shuffle any number of spell cards from your graveyard into the deck. Then you can special summon 1 light fairy type monster from your graveyard whose level equals the number of cards that you shuffled into the deck, which is really nice. If you shuffle 4 cards back, you can summon Soprano. Soprano can add Cannon back, you can special summon your Cannon and go for more plays there. So that's always really, really nice. And Ritual Sanctuary is one of the key cards for our grind game in terms of recurring our resources, recycling our spells, filling up our deck with our power cards, and then allowing us to continue our plays. So the other field spell that we run in this deck is Fusion Recycling Plant. It's really nice because we do fusion summon quite a bit with Soprano and Cannon. You also fusion summon when you go for your Brilliant Fusions or your Instant Fusions. So this is really good for just recycling resources that way. Because you can discard 1 card from your hand to add 1 polymerization from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and once per turn during the end phase, you can target 1 monster in your graveyard that was used for a fusion summon this turn, and you can add it to your hand. So even things that are sent off of Brilliant Fusion, if you send, Ghost Ogre off Brilliant Fusion, you can add it back during the end phase to your hand. So it's a really great way to search specific cards that you normally wouldn't be able to search. It's cool little interactions like that that make it worth playing. Okay, so next off we were playing 3 copies of Terraforming, which is to search out all these 4 field spells that we see right here, and it also fills up the grave with a lot of spell cards for Ritual Sanctuary's second effect. Okay, so next off we were playing 3 copies of Hymn of Light. Hymn of Light is the ritual spell card to summon Saphira, the Queen of Dragons. So this is searchable by Pre-Preparation of Rites and by Ritual Sanctuary, and you can grab it back with Preparation of Rites as well. So very versatile card and overall. Next off, a spicy little tech in this build. I am playing 3 copies of Contract with Exodia. Now you're probably wondering, whoa, okay, no, this is getting way too funky. I was following along until now, but no, just wait a little bit and I'll explain. But we do play 3 copies of Contract with Exodia. Next off, we are playing 2 copies of Instant Fusion, which is really nice to grab our Norden from the extra deck to summon more rank 4s. And you can always recycle your Norden, so the second copy is never dead, and you can always recycle the Instant Fusions back into your deck as well with Ritual Sanctuary. Next off, we play some Spell and Trap removal, 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon. Changed them out from Twin Twisters because Twin Twisters kind of destroyed our hand a little bit and lowered the combo potential that we had at times. Okay, and next off we are playing one copy of Soul Charge to recur our fields if they do get wiped, which hopefully they don't. We also play one copy of Raigeki to wipe our opponent's field. It's really powerful now that not a lot of decks are floating, especially with Zodiacs, Infernoids, and things like that running around. So Raigeki is a really great way to just clear the field and then set up yours afterwards. We also play one copy of Tuning to search out our Junk Synchron that we play. It also sends a card from the top of our deck to the graveyard. Hopefully nothing good, it just sets a, hopefully it just sends like a spell or something to fuel the Ritual Sanctuary. Okay, so next off we play one copy of Emergency Teleport, another little tech that's really nice, because you can summon your Ghost Ogre straight from your deck and use her as a level 3 tuner to go into synchro plays. Okay, we also play one copy of Polymerization. This is so that we can search it with the Fusion Recycling Plant, and you can always recycle it, so you only really need one copy. There's no reason to play any more than that, because it'll just kind of brick. And, okay, so next off we play another fusion card, Metaphors Fusion. This is really nice, and it's not because we play any Metaphors, it's because of the graveyard effect, where you can shuffle it back into the deck and draw another card. There are plenty of ways to get into the graveyard. Sappho can discard it from your hand using her end phase effect. You can discard a Ritual Sanctuary with Fusion Recycling Plant, with Summoner Monk. There's so many different ways to get this card into the graveyard that it's worth running, because it mitigates the cost and actually gets you an additional card to work with if you do open with it. Okay, so next off we play one copy of Upstart Goblin to round off all of our spell cards. Look at that, we're running out of space. That's a ton of spell cards, but it is a 60 card deck. No lawn mowing or anything like that, or grass is greener, whatever it's called now. Because we do run a lot of important cards that we need to draw into, and nothing really floats in the graveyard except things like Trick Clown, which we only play one of. Okay, so with the spells out of the way, let's go right into the trap cards. So for our trap cards, starting off with the Spice, we are playing 3 copies of Obliterate. Now you're probably wondering, okay, now is this why you're playing Contract with Exodia? Yes, this is exactly why. So this card reads that you can target one monster on the field, send one Forbidden One monster or Exodia card from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and if you do, return that target to the hand. So basically, this is a compulsory evacuation device, but it is a continuous compulsory evacuation device that you can continue using once per turn. So as long as you keep sending Contract with Exodia from the deck or your hand to the graveyard, you can continuously bounce things every single turn back to the opponent's hand. You can even bounce your own things to your hand if you want to, you know, recycle things, or if you just want to make some space on your field to continue with combos. So if this card does leave the field, though, if it's sent from the spell or trap zone to the graveyard, you can target one Forbidden One monster or one Exodia card in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, which is really nice, because if they do manage to get rid of this, you can add the Contract with Exodia back to your hand, and if you do, you know, you can use it as discard fodder for your Ritual Sanctuaries, for your Fusion Recycling Plants. It's just really nice to have this card in the deck, just because you can continuously recycle Contract with Exodia with your Ritual Sanctuary. You can continuously put them back into the deck to revive a fairy, which just fuels this card even more. I really, really do love this card, and if you wanted to draw any trap card in this deck, this is the trap card that you want to open with. Okay, so next off we were playing one copy of Floodgate Trap Hole. It just puts things face down permanently, so you don't have to deal with them until you can get over them. It's also just a great Rafflesia target. Now, speaking of Rafflesia targets, we also play one copy of Treacherous Trap Hole. And you're wondering, okay, you're playing plenty of traps while you're playing Treacherous. If you're going second and you summon Rafflesia and you don't have any traps in your graveyard, obviously because you're going second and your opponent hasn't had a chance to destroy anything, you can summon Rafflesia, send the Treacherous Trap Hole to your graveyard, just target 2 of their monsters and destroy them. So it turns Rafflesia into like a mini Raigeki, which is really nice. So instead of being reactive, she can actually be proactive as a card, and you can also wipe your opponent's field and disrupt them. Which also, if you use Treacherous Trap Hole on your turn when you summon Rafflesia, she has 1 more material left on her, so you can send the Floodgate on your opponent's turn when they try to go off then. Okay, so for the last 2 cards, we are playing one copy of Solemn Strike that I pulled from a tin. It's a good card. You should try it out. And we play one copy of Solemn Warning, just to negate monster effects and to negate summons so that we aren't overwhelmed. This deck plays the grind game really well, so things like OTK decks were kind of bad against, so this is just another way to kind of slow down the pace of the game, to stop our opponents from going off ridiculous combos, and to basically save ourselves in the end. Okay, so that does it for the main deck, 60 cards. Next off, we are going to go into the side deck. So for our side deck, starting off with 2 copies of DD Crow. Now, DD Crow, you can discard this card from your hand and target one card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it. So this is just really good as a disruption against things like Zodiacs, where if you banish their rats, they can't, you know, continue their combos. If you hit something that Gusto Emerald's trying to shuffle back, they can't shuffle anything back, and they don't get the draw. So it's just really good disruptive card in this format. Highly recommend it. Even though we do have Shiberta, this is just an additional layer of protection. Decks like DDDs also suffer when you banish their slimes or their key cards in their graveyard. Okay, so next off we're playing our second copy of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, this time in the side, just because sometimes you want to see them more frequently in some matchups. You want to see them against things like Zodiacs, you want to see them against sometimes DDDs, also against meta foes, so this is just really good to have an extra copy. And if you do happen to draw into one, or you sent one off Brilliant Fusion, you do have another copy in your deck for Emergency Teleport, so that's always nice as well. Next off, we were playing one copy of Artifact Lancia. This is searchable because it's a light fairy-type monster by Benten, so that you can discard it during your opponent's turn. You can tribute it from your hand, and when you do, neither player can banish cards for the rest of that turn. So if you have an Aria on the field, Whiptail can't banish Aria. If your opponent's playing Infernoids, they can't summon Infernoids. You know, Fairy Tale Snow and things like that can't activate either. It's just a very, very powerful card, and if you do send it from your hand to the graveyard to use its effect, Saphira during the end phase can just add it back to your hand, so you can continuously loop it and prevent your opponent from essentially playing if their deck revolves around banishing. Okay, so next off we were running 2 copies of Kumongous the Sticky String Kaiju. Kumongous, just to tribute over things, and it's 2400 attack, so you know, cards like Saphira or Shiberta can easily run over it with no problem. Next off, we were playing one copy of Sophia, the Goddess of Rebirth, just because we can. If you don't know what she does, she cannot be normal summoned or set, and she must be special summoned from your hand by banishing one face-up Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, and XYZ monster from anywhere on the field. And she cannot be special summoned by any other ways. And when she is special summoned, cards and effects cannot be activated, she basically just banishes everything from either player's hands, fields, and graveyards. So yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous card. It kind of sounds like a gimmicky card, but in reality, if you're playing against decks like DDDs, which help you like fulfill half the requirements already, it's really powerful. I think the hardest requirement for us to fulfill in this deck is probably Synchros. So if you're playing against a Synchro build, definitely side this in. You can easily get a Ritual, Fusion, and XYZ on the field in a single turn. So there's that. Just a little gimmick. You can always replace it with something else if you want, though. Next off, we were running one copy of Necro Valley. This is just to stop some graveyard-heavy based decks, things like Infernoids and things like that. It's searchable by Terraforming, which we do play 3 of, and you can always recycle it with Ritual Sanctuary, put it back into the deck to search for it again if it does get destroyed. So there's that as well. Next off, more spell cards, playing 2 copies of Dark Hole, just easy ways to wipe the entire field. This is just to support the Raigeki that's in the main deck, and especially if you're going second against certain decks like Zodiacs, which like to set up with Drancia and some, or Drident, whatever it's called now, Drident and some other XYZ monsters as well. Okay, so next off, last spells that we play are 2 copies of Twin Twisters, just additional spell and trap removal, because we only play 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon in the deck, and sometimes your opponent, if you're playing a back row heavy deck with strikes and barriers, you want to get rid of those as fast as possible, or at least bait them out into activating it before they want to. Because if your opponent activates things like Dimensional Barrier prematurely, because our deck can do all 4 summoning methods, we can pretty much play around Dimensional Barrier, and yeah, so as long as you bait it out early, you'll be fine. So for the last 3 cards in our side deck, we were playing 3 copies of Grisaille Prison. Now, Grisaille Prison, amazing card, and perfect timing actually, since we were just talking about Dimensional Barrier. This is a budget, I guess, Dimensional Barrier that you can play. If you control a face-up monster that was Tribute, Ritual, or Fusion summoned until the end of your opponent's next turn, neither player can Synchro or XYZ summon, and Synchro and XYZ summon monsters cannot attack, and also their effects are negated. So this is absolutely beautiful for shutting down so many decks, including Zodiacs, and because we can so easily put a fusion monster or ritual monster on the field, which is Brilliant Fusion or Safra or Shiberta, it's just really nice to be able to set up and stop them from even playing. So that does it for the side deck. Next off, we're going to go into the extra deck. Alright, so for the extra deck, starting off with 1 copy of Traptrix Rafflesia. This is for our Floodgate Trap Hole and the Treacherous Trap Hole in our deck, so she can send them directly from the deck to the graveyard and activate them from there. Next off, we're playing 1 copy of Abyss Dweller, just a really strong card to make first turn. If you do have an extra like instant fusion to Norden and you want to shut down your opponent's graveyard if they're playing graveyard reliant deck. Next off, we're playing 1 copy of Daigusto Emerald. Daigusto Emerald shuffles back 3 monsters so we can draw a card, which is really nice because Emerald can just start recycling things like our Brilliant Fusion engine pieces or any of our hand traps if we want to redraw them. If we went through all of our ritual fodder, we can always recycle Bentens and Safras back into the deck so we can draw them again or search them again with Ritual Sanctuary and whatnot. So very, very versatile card. And also, you don't need 2 to loop Daigusto Emeralds because we play the Obliterate, the trap card. So if you flip Obliterate, you can also bounce one of your own cards back to your hand. So you can, send a contract with Exodia and then send your Daigusto Emerald back to your extra deck so you can save it for later, protect it from battle or something like that, just so you just have it for more recycling plays in the future. Okay, so next off, we were playing 1 copy of Bujinte Tsukiyomi because we play a lot of light monsters, and you only need 2 level 4 lights for this. You discard your entire hand or whatever's, you can discard 1 card. In the most optimal situations, you're going to set everything that you need, discard your entire hand, then draw 2 more cards. So she's really nice for just helping us set up. Usually going to go for her first turn, and you just deep draw into your deck and try to get your combo pieces and set up during your first turn. So next off, we play 1 copy of Fairy Cheergirl. Also really nice draw power. She requires 2 level 4 fairy type monsters, which is really nice because Norden is also fairy. So if you Norden and bring back a fairy type monster, you can overlay both of them for Fairy Cheergirl and just get a free quick draw there. And if she survives, you get 2 draws on your next turn. Okay, so next off, we play 1 copy of Castel, just as simple removal, spin things back into the opponent's deck, which is really nice, or a little Book of Moon effect, just flip things face down as well. Next off, last rank 4s, actually last for the XYZs, we play 1 copy of Utopia and 1 copy of Utopia the Lightning, just to get over things like Crystal Wing and stuff, so we don't have to bait out negations, we can just run over it, right? So that's it for the XYZ monsters. Next off, going to go into the Synchro monsters. So, starting off these Synchro monsters, we play 1 copy of Herald of the Arc Light. Now, Herald, you can make it with Lazuli. If you summon your Junk Synchro and bring your Lazuli back, you can Synchro 3 and 1 for your Herald, which is really nice. If you happen to draw into your Lazuli, but you have your Emergency Teleport, you can normal summon your Lazuli, you can Emergency Teleport into Ghost Ogre, and Synchro into a 4 that way as well. Lazuli is an integral part of this card, and you definitely need her in order to make it, but this is definitely worth it, because when this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 ritual monster or ritual spell card from your deck to your hand, which is really nice. And it has an additional effect where if it's on the field, any monster that's sent from the hand or the deck to the graveyard is banished instead. So if you can sit on this against a deck like Lawn Mowing, if they Lawn Mowing while this is on the field, any monster that's sent to the grave is just banished and they can't really utilize it, right? So they have to get rid of this first. But you can always tribute it to negate the activation of a monster effect, a spell, or a trap card and destroy it. So this is just really, really good disruption to have, and it is also a light fairy type monster, so you can always bring it back with Ritual Sanctuary over and over again just by shuffling 4 spell cards from your graveyard back into your deck. Okay, so next off we are playing one copy of Ancient Fairy Dragon. Ancient Fairy Dragon helps facilitate more plays by special summoning a level 4 or lower monster from our hand, although you do lose your battle phase if you do use that effect. But the second effect, Amazing Effect, allows us to search field spells. So once per turn you can destroy a field spell, and if you do, you can gain 1,000 life points, and then you can add one field spell from your deck to your hand. So if your opponent's playing something that has field spells, you can blow up their field spell and search your own. You know, ABCs with Union Hanger, and we know in the future we're going to get more and more card decks that use field spells, like the True King field spells and things like that. So definitely a good card to utilize in those matchups. You can also search your Ritual Sanctuaries, you can search your Fusion Recycling Plants, you can loop Ritual Sanctuaries actually. You can destroy your Ritual Sanctuary on the field to add another one from your deck to your hand just to fuel your grave with more spells to shuffle back. So Ancient Fairy Dragon, really nice combo piece to have. And the last synchro that we play for now is Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. We can easily make this card. It is not difficult at all. It requires 1 tuner and 2 non-tuner monsters. So if you Brilliant Fusion into a Seraphonite, Seraphonite's a level 5. If you normal summon your Junk Synchron, it's a level 3, which brings back Lazuli, which is a level 1. 3, 5, and 1 make 9, so you can easily Trish that way. You can also use Ghost Ogre in place of the Junk Synchron. Now, another cool play is that if you Junk Synchron, it can bring back Maxi from your graveyard as well. So Junk Synchron's a level 3, Maxi's a level 2, and if you have any other level 4 on the field, you can Synchro 3, 2, and 4 for 9, which goes into Trishula. And this is just a really nice power play, and people never expect it. This is a card that nobody ever expects in this deck, and it can definitely throw their game off by banishing resources in their graveyard, on their field, and in their hand. So that's it for the synchros. Next off, gonna go into the fusions. So for our fusions, we're starting off with one copy of Elder Entity Norden as our instant fusion target. Really nice because it can bring back another level 4 lower monster from our graveyard. Helps facilitate a lot of things like XYZs or synchros, actually. Okay, next off we play one copy of Gem Knight Seraphonite. So Seraphonite allows us to normal summon again in addition to a regular normal summon or set. So she is really nice because we have so many cards like Soprano, Aria, Summoner Monk, Junk Synchron, things that if we do draw, we want to normal summon them because we can't get them out of the hand any other way. So she's really nice for helping us swarm the field that way, and she's also a pretty good level, as I said, to summon things like Trishula and whatnot. So really good facilitator for those combos. Next off, we were playing one copy of Shiberta, the Melodious Maestra. So during either player's turn, you can target 3 cards in either player's graveyard and banish them, and if you do, she gains 200 attack for each. So not only does she become a 3,000 attack beat stick, but she can also provide a lot of graveyard disruption, especially good against things like Light Sworns or Phantom Knights or Infernoids, anything that's really trying to utilize that lawn mowing or grass is greener card, right? And of course, to wrap things up, we go back to our roots with Bloom Diva, the Melodious Choir. More Melodious cards is always nice, and she's a nice boss monster to sit on as well. So if your opponent has like a really big, bulky monster and you don't have a way to attack over it, you can always inflict damage to your opponent by crashing Bloom Diva into that monster repeatedly, because you take no battle damage with battles involving her. So that does it for the extra deck, and that does it for the deck profile. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please leave a like, subscribe for more Melodious content, and leave a comment down below letting me know what I can do to improve. And until next time, take care.